Need a motion and a second that the Secretary's report for the regular meeting of 6/28/17 and the special meeting of 7/28/17 and 8/2/17 be accepted, approved, and filed for audit.
Motion. Mrs. Creasy and Mrs. Shustak, all members.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Treasurer's report for the period ending 7/31/17 be accepted, approved, and filed for audit.
Motion. Mrs. Shustak.
Second.
Mrs. Creasy, all members.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We're going to go right into the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Salvador. I'd like to start off my superintendent's report by first letting people know that opening day, August 28th for students attending Schuylkill CTC, with September 6th being the opening day for all other students in the Shenandoah Valley School District. With that being said, Friday is our first football game, home against North Schuylkill, so please come and attend. And September 29th is our homecoming game at home with Minersville. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Lukashunas and all our support staff for their efforts in preparing the school for opening day. Your efforts are truly appreciated. Without your efforts, we wouldn't be able to get this school open. I'd also like to remind parents to refer to our Shenandoah Valley website for information regarding new school vaccination requirements. We send information out to parents. This is a friendly reminder to please look at the information on our school website. It can be found under the nurse's office. It's very important that if students if they don't have all their vaccinations, they could be excluded after the first 5 days of school. So it's very important for that to happen. I'd also like to announce a new program we're offering here, a couple of new programs we're offering here. One was a meeting we just had, a presentation from an online provider that will be offering here in Shenandoah Valley School District from VLN. And VLN, we're working collaboratively with them to offer options for our students who are actually out in cyber schools and schools like Gillingham to try to come back to Shenandoah Valley. I'm going to get on a soapbox just a little bit here. Schools like cyber schools and those of Gillingham purport that they are offering free education for our students here in Shenandoah Valley, which is a misnomer. Our U.S. taxpayers pay the bill for those students attending cyber charter schools, including the parents who send their kids there. They pay that tax bill. Some of the cyber charter schools use money to help with advertisement. One of them, we have information on, has used over $4 million just last year of their funding that comes from public schools for advertisement for their kids to go there. So it is very important that our students who are attending online cyber schools, those at cyber school, Gillingham, we have other options for you, and working with VLN is an option that we could have. More information for parents can be found through our office here at Shenandoah Valley. Another thing I'd like to recognize is this year, for the first time in Shenandoah Valley, we will have 14 students participating in college courses, working collaboratively with LCCC, and the professor will be coming right here on campus and offering those courses for our students, 14 of them. We're having an English composition research course that we're offering for our students in the fall, and then we have an intro to psychology course that will be in the spring for 14 students. First time we're offering it here in Shenandoah Valley. Is another academic opportunity for our kids. So again, it's the first time, and we're very proud of that. I'm looking forward to that kicking off of the school year. With that said, I have one more piece of information. We have a young man here that's a former graduate of Shenandoah Valley School District. His name is David Lindemuth, and David has a passion for news and journalism. And Dave is going off to Kutztown, leaving tomorrow, I know that. And David has represented Shenandoah Valley very well in his endeavors and what he's doing and moving off into Kutztown with his future. But he has recently been recognized by the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And it's quite an accomplishment for David and his efforts and what he's done to help him further advance himself. So David, I would like for you just to talk a little bit about what that entailed, the National Press Club, when you were invited down there.
Well, I applied for a scholarship in March, got a call in mid-July to be told I won the scholarship, and I was invited down to D.C. to speak. It was a heck of a lot of trouble figuring out the logistics of getting from there to here when I can't even usually get to Zion Grove for stories sometimes. But I managed to do it, and I spoke in front of a crowd of probably 300 journalists, some of them Pulitzer Prize winners, and it was pretty humbling to be able to talk in front of all them, and like that's about the most I could say with there. And
What did you gain from your experience there?
well, it really showed it really solidified my decision for my career path, and showed that what I'm trying to do is, or that I'm doing, or on the right path to do what I'm trying to do with covering community news and that sort of thing, and trying to provide a solid news source for communities.
Well, as you go through your career here and your ambition, it sounds like you found your passion. You are going to have times that you're going to have difficult times and struggles, and times that are going to be very meaningful for you in your profession that you choose. And we wish you the best of luck, because I know you're self-motivated. I know you've developed what you're doing now all yourself, and Shenandoah Centennial all online. That was all your initiative and doing. So you have the initiative and the passion. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors at Kutztown.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
At this time, if there's any citizen comments on agenda items only, we'll take.
Is that me?
Agenda, is there anything on the agenda?
No, I guess not.
No, that comes, other comments are at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
I'd like to call an executive session.
At 7:08, we're formed for a break for executive session, 7:08.
Rolling.
Yep. Yes, yes. Much better, yep. Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education meeting for this evening. Commenced at 8:01. We have executive session for personnel reasons. So we'll come back and we'll continue. We need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the following professional staffing services.
Motion. Mrs. Creasy. Second. And Mrs. Schuster. Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
And Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the letters of resignation and retroactively approve posting and advertising as recommended. Rochelle Jones, Allison Rizzo, and Ashley Finkel.
Motion.
Mr. Twardzik.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. All members?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education appoint elementary principal Brooke Wowak as the federal programs coordinator at total salary for both positions at $72,500 effective August 1st, 2017 as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Twardzik. Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
And Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education appoint elementary vice principal Leslie Mattis as the school psychologist at total salary for both positions at $67,500 effective August 1st, 2017 as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Twardzik. Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
And Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve mentor teachers for 2017-2018 school year as recommended.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Schuster and Mr. Petrish. I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Gracie?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the following professional staff appointments at salaries recommended and fringe benefits as per SEA contract for the year 2017-2018 school year as recommended. Cassandra Bloom, elementary emotional support. Megan McCulloch, secondary English. And Robin Resick, secondary English.
Motion.
Mrs. Creasy?
Second.
And Mr. Twardzik? Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the 2017-2018 elementary and high school student handbooks as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak? Mr. Petrish? All members?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the 2017-2018 Schuylkill County Guest Teacher Program as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik? Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education appoint Nina DeLusso as spelling bee coordinator as recommended.
Motion. Second.
Mrs. Shustak and Mrs. Creasy. Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Motion passes.
By advice from our solicitor, I will abstain, being it is my daughter. She does not live in my household, however, but I will abstain from the vote. Okay.
I changed the vote to list you as abstaining.
Okay, thank you. That was my error. I shouldn't have voted for it. I need a motion and a second. I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the second reading of the new policy number 918, Title I, parental involvement as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mr. Petrish? All members?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the first reading of the following new policies as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Creasy?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik? Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy? Yes. I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
And Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the first reading of the following revised policies as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mrs. Creasy? Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education retroactively approve the July 2017 bills as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik? Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve agreements for the 2017-2018 school year as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mr. Petrish? Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Shustak?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alchewski?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the BB&T resolution and agreement for deposit account as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Shustak?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik? Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion to second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education reject the County Tax Claim Bureau repository for unsold property as recommended.
Motion.
Mr. Twardzik?
Second.
Mrs. Schuster? I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the attached resolution pertaining to the 2017 capital improvement project financing based on one-time funding of the 67% market value and the 33% of district enrollment with payment of Shenandoah Valley School District share for the improvement of $120,135 to come from the general fund as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Creasy? Mr. Petrish? Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes.
Need a motion and second. The Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the proposal from Conrad Siegel Actuaries for ACA employer reporting in the amount of $6,000 as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mrs. Creasy? Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education retroactively approve the following coaching appointments as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Creasy?
Second.
And Mr. Twardzik? Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
And Mr. Petrish? Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education retroactively approve the band staff appointments as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik? Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
And Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the Shenandoah Quarterback Club 2017 football program ad for $100 as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mrs. Monahan? Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve letters of resignation and retroactively approve posting and advertising as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mrs. Creasy? All members?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the support staff recommendations as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mr. Petrish? Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Abstain.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the creation of full-time paraprofessional position and approve Gloria Popovich for the full-time paraprofessional position for the 2017-2018 school year as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster? Mr. Salvador? Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan?
Yes.
Mr. Petrish?
Yes.
Mr. Salvador?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik?
Yes.
And Mr. Alshevsky?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education retroactively approve advertising as necessary until the following positions are filled.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster?
Second.
Mr. Twardzik. Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve building usage for the Shenandoah Junior Blue Devils football field as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
And Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education retroactively approve Tomlinson Baumgartner's proposal of $650 to lay out infield to correct specifications as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the 2017-2018 transportation agreement as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mrs. Creasy. Mr. Petrish. Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve the 2017-2018 Shenandoah Valley School District bus stops as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster. Mr. Petrish. Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish. Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education approve payment and bill as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education receive and file the tax administrator's report and authorize payment of commission as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. Mr. Twardzik.
Yes.
Mr. Alshevsky.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Creasy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Monahan.
Yes.
Mr. Petrish.
Yes.
Mr. Salvador.
Yes.
Mrs. Schuster.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Need a motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education accept, receive, and file earned income taxes, real estate taxes, occupation taxes, per capita taxes, occupational privilege taxes for the period ending 7/31/17 as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mrs. Monahan. All members?
Aye.
Motion
Need a
passes.
motion and a second that the Shenandoah Valley School District Board of Education receive and file for audit, receipts, recap of revenues, expenditures, district and ESA list of regular monthly fixed bills and statement of accounts as recommended.
Motion.
Mrs. Schuster.
Second.
Mr. Petrish. All members?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Citizen comments are welcome at this time. First one on our list this evening is Mrs. Cindy Huss. Would you please? I know. I get nervous.
You.
Take your time. Give us your name and your address.
Really? You want that?
Nah.
All right. All right, my name is Cindy Huss. I live at 132 North White, and my daughter's name is Anna, and I got her permission to mention her name. Yes, it's... Anyway, I'm just going to read what I have here for you. Bear with me, I'm not a public speaker. Okay. First of all, if I have my information wrong, I apologize. I feel that I do. Anna was the first freshman in school history to qualify for states. She threw the discus, and she, as far as I know, still has a school record. It was mentioned in passing that she would have something put up in the gym in her honor. It was said, let's wait and see. how she does the next 4 years. She qualified the next 3 years. Every year in high school, throwing the discus. Now, not only did she throw the discus, she threw the shot put and the javelin. Then when she was a senior, we were told, even though she qualified, she didn't medal. And because she didn't medal, there was nothing going to be put up in the gym. I said, okay. I felt that that was the rule and didn't question it. So until this last year, when I found out that there were cross-country state qualifiers with a banner in the gym. Now, I'm not taking away what those kids did, but they did not medal. They didn't medal. As far as I know, they only qualified 1 year. Anna was the first freshman out of school history to qualify and went on to do it all 4 years. The reason I got after that was it's easier to qualify for track than it is for cross country. And I don't understand that because she had to split her training between 3 different events: shot put, discus, and javelin. I don't understand that. If you ask me, it's harder to qualify for 3 different events than it is. I don't know how many events are in cross country. I don't know. But she, performed these 3 different events and qualified every year for the discus. I'm sorry. I just want a straight answer. I was told the last thing, like I said, I'm repeating myself, it's easier to qualify for track than it is for cross country. I don't believe that it's true. I was told different stories. If that was the story from the beginning, it should have been said so when she was a freshman. I feel that what we've been told so far changes according to whoever benefits. And if you know me, you know I'm not a complainer. I support you all. This isn't an easy job. Why have the reasons changed? If qualifying for states in track wouldn't get her any recognition, then why was she told that from the beginning? I feel that this is an injustice for Anna, and I asked her if she wanted me to say anything. Surprisingly, she said yes. To quote her, she said, maybe just something about equal recognition should have been dealt. That is my issue. I accepted what was told me all those years. And then the last thing was, it's easier to qualify for cross country than it is for track. I don't believe that's true. She had to split her time up between 3 different events. And like I said, she still holds the state record. All 4 years, you can check your records. It's all there. Do you have any questions? I expect a straight answer.
No, I'm going to tell you no. We did investigate.
Okay, and now let me tell you, I know you got back to me and you said that. And I have messaged you 2 more times and there was no answer. So before you say anything, I'm going to tell you again that I feel the story has changed and I'm getting a line of bullshit. Go ahead.
When we discussed this in the workshop, I think we discussed it more than one time.
We did discuss it.
We talked about going back in the records. And as far as I know, the athletic directors did go far back into the records. If I'm wrong here, correct me.
Okay,
But
well,
now, let me finish.
all right, I'm sorry.
And when we came to the assumption of how many names would be on the banner because of the qualifying, it was a huge banner. Do we remember that?
I think a discussion might have been around any person who qualified in 1 year.
1 year, that's correct.
But that's not the same
Is she qualified
pitch. that
All
No,
Mrs. Huss is
I
making.
understand.
for
She's looking for
years?
consideration.
I understand that, and we talked about it at length, at least 2 meetings.
Okay, I haven't heard it from any of the people that I've talked to. I haven't heard anything back.
So, I don't know if you were here, John. I know Joe Buck was here. We were all talking about it with our athletic directors.
Okay,
and-
let me tell you that, it was the same athletic director from 2010, 2011, 12, and 13, which you graduated. So if you need to check that record, that's who you need to go to.
But what I'm saying is, they came up, they couldn't find out any information probably before Coach Chisholm was here. That was part of it. Is that correct, John?
We had all of his records accurate.
Yeah, but before him,
That.
we had no record. But we determined at a meeting that just telling you what this board determined,
Okay,
at a workshop, that the banner would be very large, huge.
okay, but,
If we.
For track.
For track.
For track.
For track.
okay, was there anyone else that qualified all 4 years in track? Was there anyone else? Okay, let me tell you that Anna received from her coach a plaque. It wasn't through the school. Jeff Rakes gave her a plaque that said, first freshman in Shenandoah history to qualify. So I know there were others that qualified other years.
I think the special consideration you're asking is, you feel it's warranted for a special accomplishment of 4 years of qualifying for state.
Absolutely.
I think we're clear on that.
And I'm not taking it away from anyone else that would do anything.
I'm personally unclear, because as I sit with the board, remembering some of the discussions about this, I agreed, a member of the board agreement, that you wouldn't put a banner up for everybody every time they do it. I've got to say today that it seems, I don't recall having information that there's a other sport banner for anybody who qualified once. That's
That's
new
it.
news to me.
And that is
And that
what,
would be a bonus.
from what I understanding in the pictures that I've seen, the cross-country qualifiers is 1 year. Unless it's Dominique Stazzulli. I could be wrong.
Why would that make a difference?
I don't know, you're asking how many years
Oh.
and how big it would be. Hold on. Yeah, I do have this.
If we decide that we're not going to put up banners for qualifiers, then why do the banner for qualifier? If
I
that's
feel that
true.
there's a double standard. Anna is asking for nothing other than equal.
Better to see the banner and know who's on it and why.
Okay, here I can tell you. (1980, 1980, 83, 2003, 2008, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 13. That's two different people. Brittany Joseph and Carly Tashenko, and then Carly did it again in 2014. These are single years. Single years. Okay. You understand my issue. You understand that I feel that it's,
Pardon?
they've changed the rules.
We'll bring it back to the next workshop and we'll have a complete discussion.
Okay.
You're welcome to come.
Danny, you know that I've talked to you now twice.
Well,
I
we
haven't.
discussed it here, and the board.
But you
at that
didn't
time
tell me
worked.
that.
But if we know something new now,
You didn't tell me that. There's been no discussion since November
Yeah.
from you. So, I appreciate your time.
We'll revisit it.
Thank you for all your support for Anna through the years. She's done very well, and she's graduated college now.
from where?
Philadelphia University. She was on the rowing team down there. So she was on varsity doing that too. Never rowed a day in her life. She was in a canoe like once. Picked up rowing and ended up doing varsity with it. So, and she's working where she can too. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I believe I know everyone here except for Mr. Tripler. Hello, I'm Renee Buchanan. Congratulations, Mr. Brennan, as well. I live in Shenandoah Heights. I'm not giving my address, or you're just kidding. I have 2 daughters currently attending Shenandoah Valley, and my concern is buyouts. I spoke with a few of the board members individually last year when drama came about. Sorry, I get nervous. The drama buyouts last year were over $250 for each of my daughters. Each. As a single parent, it's financially difficult. And now, starting this school year, my daughter Alyssa, who is a sophomore, is involved in cheerleading, cross country, volleyball, basketball, drama, student council, track, and she has her class dues. So we just started this past week, and like I said, I'm sorry, I'm overwhelmed with how much all of this is costing in a public school. For cheerleading, we have $264.19. We have had numerous fundraisers starting in May, and each one has a different amount associated with it for how many items you have to sell or what you have to sell, and that gets deducted from the total amount of what they're getting. We've had one in May, 2 in June, 2 in July, 1 in August right now, and then 2 coming up in September. So total, I've probably purchased as much as we've had to sell in buyouts. I have everything written down, and I did talk to her advisor. I also got my daughter Jacqueline, who's on cheerleading. I had to pay out of pocket $60 for her so far for cheerleading, and also for pom-poms, and then she was sent home with $5 vouchers to sell. I want to know, when did we begin these buyouts, and are they approved? Because that's a lot of money every month, and I'm on a fixed income. Cross country, that's $65 if you don't sell a certain amount. Volleyball, we got for $50. We're doing can collecting. We'll be selling clothes and pizza. Basketball, they did can collecting, but we were on vacation. So those who weren't there didn't get to benefit from that. They have summer league, there's sneakers for every sport. It's just constant selling, and if you don't sell the amount, you need to do a buyout. I don't have family here. My family doesn't live close. I can't sell perishable items, and I don't need another Shenandoah Valley t-shirt. I probably have 50. It's very difficult for me with 2 children. And I don't think they should feel the stress of what I'm feeling in order to participate in these sports. My daughter Alyssa is a sophomore and she's 4th in her class, and she does all these activities and she excels at everything that she does. But it's very hard for me to keep going to the same people or to my businesses, and there's a lot of business owners here. I'm sure you feel it too. Everybody's coming in, they need to sell something. We are a very small town, a small community, a small school. You know, like, what is the limit on this? What are you providing for these different sports? I mean, I have to buy sneakers for each one. That's all I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But why am I buying pom-poms for cheerleaders? What are they doing as advisors? Are they educated? Do they know? Are they able to request funding from the school? How often are they able to do that?
And I'll just speak, because I've worked many sides of this, from the booster. I think, and maybe this is a good come to Jesus time for us to, as a school community, sit and really talk and take a look at what we're doing. I know in my experience of sort of on the booster side of things, oftentimes what you're raising money for isn't necessarily the needs for the participation in the sport as much as it is for the extras that are provided to the kids. Be it, now again, I can't speak to cheerleading because I don't know what we provide in terms of equipment and supplies. Thinking though in terms of volleyball and basketball specifically, a lot of those fundraising dollars went to a lot of year-end gifts, the camps over the summer, extras, we pay for fan buses, we pay for food, jackets, that's all of what those dollars went towards. And I think those are the questions that maybe, be it as the board, administration, parents, and coaches, maybe those discussions need to happen to say, what are these dollars? I think every individual sport or club has different things that they're raising those funds for.
Right.
And so, I've had a conversation with, as I'm transitioning and trying to pass the torch for basketball, the person that has been helpful to me in the last couple of years cannot find anybody to step up as another parent and commit to helping her out. And what I said to her is that maybe a lot of the things that we've been raising funds for, it's a conversation between you as booster and coach to say what's important. My vote as a parent / whatever I am now, but would be, I'd say support, those funds should support camp over jackets.
Right. And I agree.
That's for player development.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate that you came to raise this issue, Renee, and I think those are the kinds of discussions that we have to prioritize them with our coaches to say what's important, what do you need, what helps the team develop, and maybe we don't do the fundraising for all the sort of, I hate to call this sort of fluffy extra stuff that isn't necessarily necessary. But, and then it's for the kids, they may not get back in their junior year, or they may not get certain things.
Well, right, and I agree. And my whole thing is, Alyssa's involved in all of these. Does she need a jacket for every single one? No, she doesn't. Does she need a duffel bag for every sport that I'm paying for? No. There's, these are things, we have so many bags. We have so many jackets, so many different things that they could just do a Shenandoah Valley bag. She can use it for track, she can use it for volleyball, she can use it for cheerleading. But if I don't participate, she doesn't get these things. And there were 3 other parents that were gonna come, but they said they don't want their child being singled out. So, what do? You know, I just can't financially do it.
I mean, I think, I don't know, I'm just talking out my head right now, but maybe, again, serious consideration for taking the combined resources of those 1 or 2 parents that might be involved across all the systems, and do you try to do some kind of collective, at least on the athletic side of things, to do it, you know, we do a year-end athletic banquet, you know, do you, I don't know. I think
Well,
the duplication of things is something to think about, because is it necessary? I mean, because it's not fair, and this is always the struggle. And Coach Miller, I don't, you know, say this, he was always such a strong advocate and busted his tail to do a lot of fundraising, so that there was never a kid on the team whose families could not do what you're talking about. He never wanted to see a kid out and
Right.
not have access to those things. But I agree. I think we need to figure out ways, because we don't have the level of parental participation in a lot of things.
Exactly.
And we don't, even the parents that are willing to participate like yourself, there's still a limit to how much a single family can do.
With multiple children. I mean, I come in front of the board as a previous class advisor every year requesting class dues. I said $5 a month, $45 a year. No, we are a poor school district. We cannot do that. Yet you have 67 students, you have those 12 kids and their parents that constantly help. Yet every 67 student, like all 67, got the same benefits. They got to participate in graduation. We paid for their caps and gowns. We paid for their flowers. So what's the benefit? Why should we keep doing all this and everybody gets the same benefit, and then the more you participate in activities, the more it's costing me?
Well, maybe one of the things, and I know, Renee, you would want to participate as best you can, but maybe if somebody's involved in 6 sports like Alyssa is, or 6 or 7 clubs, whatever she is, you put a cap on it. You know, if you only have to do fundraising for no more than 3 activities, or something like that.
Right, it's overwhelming and it's giving me major anxiety.
So if I just want clarification for myself, some of the things I think I heard you say were that you're doing fundraising things for are really things that are like jackets or
Stuff.
sweatpants and those type of
Yes.
things, where kids don't really, if a parent chooses to, they don't have to participate and get that, correct? Because I heard you also say, well, I have so many bags here.
Well,
I mean,
it's not presented as that. I don't have them with me. Like, as far as cross country, we just got, and this is the first time Alyssa's doing cross country. So there is a buyout, and you sell 12, I believe, 13 items. If you sell a candle, it's $5 that you get back, or a t-shirt is $5. It's a $65 total. Okay, we can probably sell some of that stuff. We're not going to reach that maximum. It's saturated. Where I work, everybody has children. A lot of the children are in the same activities, you know, so it's redundant. Like, I'm selling pizza now for cheerleading, and then next month I'm going to be selling pizza for volleyball. And my other daughter, Jackie, has the pizza vouchers for Little Venice right now. So it's like, okay, do you want to buy 3 pizzas from 3 different places? Because that's where I'm at.
Why don't we provide pom-poms? I mean, that just stood out as a sore thought.
That was my whole thing. They're on cheerleading. Isn't that part of the
Isn't that
uniform?
part of their uniform? John, is it?
Laura's on, and Alicia takes care of that. Probably if I knew all this, I'd be as upset as Renee.
And I mean, we held discussion last year because the drama issue came up.
Yes, and that
So
was,
obviously, somewhere along the line, it didn't get through to the next year, because it's already started.
and I don't know if that's, are the buyouts approved, is what I'm asking. Are these buyouts approved?
Did you get buyouts from drama this year?
Not, but at the end of the year, drama didn't start yet, so,
So what I'm asking you is this year, because I know Brian and I had discussions with Wendy. I know what happened last year, Renee, and no, they were not approved with what happened.
right, but they, like,
I
even
don't
this
believe-
cheerleading one,
I don't
it
believe it's gonna be the
says,
same thing. I don't know
if
anything
you
about
don't
cheerleading.
sell 12, if you don't sell your items, I messaged her just to get everything to see where I was. And she did say it's for stuff. $90 jackets. Like, it wasn't even offered to us, like, you're gonna get a jacket. Like, we didn't know what we were getting. It was, this is how much everything is gonna cost, and this is what you have to sell. So all summer long, we've been selling. And then school didn't even start yet, I didn't school shop.
You should be able to opt out on any of these. I mean, that's just, as a parent, you have that ability to opt out. Your problem is your kid isn't involved in too much, which is perfect for this bill. I mean, if you had a kid who wasn't involved, it'd be not a problem. As a parent, I think you have to just sit down with your kids and say, get one jacket, one bag, and
But it wasn't offered like that.
Well,
I don't even know what I'm selling it for.
See, that's where I was asking the question, clarifying question. Is it mandated that you sell to get a warm-up jacket or a warm-up sweatsuit?
I didn't even know what we were selling for
Okay.
until today. And then I saw the jacket. But, so we raised $2,400 on a bingo in May. And then all the candy bars. And I don't know what that total was. But camp for the cheerleading, 2 days, 2 cheerleading coaches that were here, was $3,910. Each girl paid the deposit, the donuts, they had to sell, or you sell 12 dozen donuts, or you have a $45 buyout. So their book bags were $17, their embroidery on the book bags are $13, which makes no sense. Bodysuits are $19.20, pom-poms are $25.06. Socks, briefs, sneakers, those things I expect to pay for.
I think as a board, there were things that came to our attention last year that caused us to have a conversation. I think this, what you're bringing to us, for me, it drives the belief that we need more conversation. As a board, our responsibility is to provide governance over the district activities, to set boundaries and conditions and make rules. And we can't settle this here today.
Right.
And we're taking a drink from a fire hose with you giving us all this data. We're going to want all that detail. We're going to want all that detail for a lot of activities throughout the school to get the scope of what we've got to try to rein in.
Right.
Is all the fundraising through the advisors or the, like the pom-pom moms? Is any of this fundraising driven by the pom-pom moms, or is it driven through the advisors? I'm just taking cheerleading off the bat.
The advisors are the ones saying, this is what we're getting, so we have to do fundraising, who has ideas? So they come to the parents, and they just nicknamed us, just as a group of parents, okay, we're the pom-pom moms, because we're the ones having to do the fundraising. So these are the ideas. Do we have an actual president or secretary or anything like that? No. It's the advisors collecting the money. It's the advisors doing everything. So
if the pom-pom moms we're thinking that's who's holding this, but yet it's the advisors being the driving force, they're not getting approval because they're pushing it through under the pom-pom moms. And the pom-pom moms would actually be the booster club versus...
but there's not actually a booster club. There's no president of the booster club. There's no dictation. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, but it sounds like there isn't
Why?
now. It
Because my
sounds like...
wife was part of it.
I'm new to the cheerleading thing.
That's a long time ago.
So the advisors never came, because don't the approvals come through the superintendent's office, Brian, for any of the
For any
fundraising?
fundraisers, yes.
Right, and what they're getting approved is we're selling Krispy Kreme donuts.
Right.
Okay, approved. What you're not getting is the letter that I'm getting, that you have to sell 12 dozen donuts or the buyout is $45.
What's the 12 dozen donuts getting you, Renee?
That's the question. That clarification earlier was.
$3.75, I believe it said, for
No.
each.
For what though? What?
I didn't know.
You don't know?
I
Okay.
did not know,
I heard you
until
say-
today,
I heard
until
you say one
today.
thing that sticks out for me, Renee. Did you say the girls had to raise money for summer camp? Pay the coaches to be there?
The coaches said that they had to pay $55 each. She said it was,
See, that's where I organize things. That's where.
because I questioned, I said camp for 2 days for 2 girls, 2 All-American cheerleaders to come here.
Oh, okay, they brought somebody here.
There were 2 girls that came here.
All right.
Camp was $3,910. It was $150 a girl, and Dawn and myself had to pay $55. So they each paid their own $55, from what I
That was to bring an
understand.
outside cheerleader in here. That's who got the money, not the advisors.
No,
Okay, that's, I heard something wrong.
But I'm
No.
still gonna go back to broad governance. I mean, what I hear is the superintendent has to authorize fundraiser
fundraiser.
requests. So he gets fundraiser requests, another one, another one, another one, another one, and God bless you, Brian, I don't know that you have a grand view of every activity in the school. I mean, it's kind of like Colonel Blake and radar. I mean, somebody's putting a paper in front of you, okay.
Great analogy.
well, I know in previous years as the class advisor, you know, Meg has the calendar, it used to be Patty, and it would be, like, they don't cross. You know, if somebody's selling pizza
know
this
that.
month,
That we know.
you know,
That
we know.
you know, and then, so then next month it's
Yep.
somebody else. But it's
Right.
just, because she is involved in so much, like, what is the maximum? What is the max?
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if anyone here can.
And I know I probably won't get an answer tonight, and that's fine, but I'm saying, it's overwhelming.
I think one of the things that, again, I was looking at, and I agree, I can understand why it's overwhelming. And I think one of the things I think I heard based on what Lean's saying, and also what I'm hearing you say, is there's some things that we should probably say, if they're gonna do these fundraisers, they should be your priority. Maybe that camp's the priority in
Right.
cheerleading. But do the girls need the jackets then?
Right,
To cheerlead, you don't need the jacket.
Right.
Okay? And that's-
unless they're allowed to wear them when they're cheering, when it's
Right,
cold.
Right, yeah, but they're cheering unless, outside, yeah,
Right,
you're right, for football and those
football.
types of things, so they might need it for that and cheerleading and doing it outside, you're right. So there might be some other things in there, ancillary things that you don't know what they're gonna get, that you as a parent would really say, you know, my daughter doesn't need that because, and I'd like to opt out of that part.
Right, and I'm wondering, is this affecting participation? Because people know, like, you know, with drama last year, like, that was a lot of money.
John was in a different situation as much as the school does not fund
Right.
their activities.
And
So
how much does the
everything-
school fund for the cheerleading? Like, why am I paying for pom-poms? That, to me, that's part of the uniform.
They have a budget, and I think we'd be looking into that budget, seeing where they go.
You know, it just seems like,
I wrote that down too.
how many times are they allowed to do fundraising? And there has to be a max.
I think this board is definitely gonna review all that. Renee, there's really no reason you should have to fundraise all that money with 2 children that are so involved. It's just, it's over the top. I think we all agree with that. How we can make it different, we're gonna try. Parents should be able to opt out without affecting participation, then the kid doesn't get a jacket. I mean, but she'll get one from cross-country or,
Right.
so, I mean,
Or
we
can
have
we get
a lot of
one,
discussion.
like the Letterman jackets, if they get one and have every sport that she's on it. I mean, I don't care, I don't know how they do that or when that happens, but like, she's not gonna need 8 jackets when she
No.
graduates.
No.
And when we figure out rules, you're going to have some advisors that have less opportunity to do more grandiose things than other advisors. We don't want to stifle the creativity and the passion of certain organizations and certain advisors because they're not going to be allowed to explore that passion.
I understand that, and
There's a lot
I
to
dealt
manage.
with Mr. DeMalis as far as the class advisor, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, $12,000 to $18,000 each class has to raise for yearbooks, graduation, and things like that.
When you were doing it, it was that. It's less now because of the change in the way the yearbook is done. So if you want to volunteer for
No,
$200,
I cannot take on any more.
Always thinking, Tony, aren't you? Always thinking.
Just so, Renee, just so you know, my wife, I texted my wife, our girls never had to buy the pom-pom. However, she said the pom-pom moms raised money for the squad. And she was one of the first pom-pom moms, but Nina was still cheering.
Well, I remember
I'm sorry, go
nieces.
ahead. I think the thing that jumps out at me the most, and maybe it won't be the biggest issue, but this is where I see one of the bigger issues coming into play. And we'll use Shirley as an example, because I've seen, okay, so we issue the regular uniforms, but I've seen where they wear the long pants and say the sweatsuit that's glittery and all that, right? So we don't, as a board, as a district, we don't buy that for them, right? So if they want, so you can't put a squad out in a parade and have half of them in a jacket, half of them not in a jacket, right? Or something like that. But if, as a district, we're not going to pay for that stuff, so then how does it get paid for through the fundraising? You know, and that, I think, in some of those circumstances, it's either you do it or you don't, and how you get to some consensus, does that get?
Right.
Why would the advisor insist on this different outfit that we provided? Why would they insist on a
Well,
different?
I don't know.
In that example.
Don't quote me on this, but I think from what I heard, this is their last year of doing it, and one of them, their daughter is a senior. So go big or go home type theory is,
So that's where governance would play and say you can't.
right, but I didn't even know what I was fundraising
Well, I
for.
think that's an important thing to tag on what you just said. If they knew, well, we're going to fundraise for a winter garb, okay? We're going to pants and okay, then at least I know what I'm going after. But if I'm raising money and I don't know what the heck, and then at the end I'm going to get a jacket, I don't want a jacket.
I remember when, I'm trying to think what year it was. It was when, oh my gosh. Help me, first day, your daughter, oh my God.
Brittany, Aaron,
Aaron's senior year, going into her senior for basketball. The girls wanted warm-up suits. But we had 2 seniors that were gonna get 1 year out of those suits. And we had like a parent meeting and threw it out, because as parents, they didn't want to buy for that 1 year, then nobody on the team was gonna do it. Do you know what I mean? And we ended up doing fundraising and they got the suits and whatever. But I think it probably requires at an individual sport or club level to figure out some ways that you get parents to buy into what's going on. And either you do it or you don't do it. And what are you doing it for?
Renee, how many are in the pom-pom?
it depends on who's available to make the meeting. It's not
Yeah, but it's like.
there's no sign-in, there's no,
There's not an official meeting.
there's not an
They meet at
official
the
meeting.
red zone in Monterey
Yeah.
City.
Ah,
On the
2 people, 4 people, 6 people?
It could be, it depends
Could
on
be
what's
any
going
number.
on.
Okay, availability.
10, 12, it just depends. I think there were 25 girls that went to camp. There was 25.
Even if it's an official group, there's no law that makes the person attend to the
Right.
meeting anyway.
And my whole thing was, when did these buyouts
Different.
come about? Because when I was class advisor and doing in part of the school, like we weren't allowed buyouts. We weren't even allowed class dues. So how is this mandated that these kids have to do this, and what's their punishment if they don't? Because it's a lot of money.
It's one thing for a group to say, we're gonna have a fundraiser. We're gonna go out and sell these things, and that's gonna raise money for the group. If you fail to sell, well, then you're supposed to pay. I mean, it's a fine line between turning into a pay-for-play,
Yeah,
and we're not.
we'll have many discussions. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
forward.
Sorry I got
thank you.
upset. Just
No, it's something that has to be addressed.
And all that detail is in the minutes for us. So thank you.
well, you're welcome. I have it printed out, so.
Yeah, we're gonna need a lot.